The history of paleontology is peppered with outstanding characters, but few were as unusual as Dr. David Baldwin. A unique individual at a time when the American frontier spirit was strong, Baldwin would often dig up fossils in the coldest of winters, accompanied by only his mule. But although Baldwin was a rather odd person, he was also a renowned fossil collector, who had the distinction of working for both Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope, the two bitter rivals of the infamous Bone Wars. While working for Cope in New Mexico during the winter of 1881, Baldwin made one of his most important discoveries. Baldwin had come across a few small fossils, but it was enough for Cope to name a new genus of theropod, Coelophysis. Hailing from the late Triassic, the slender, lightly built theropod was clearly a sleek and rapid predator. However, it would take more than 60 years before more complete remains were discovered. In 1947, an expedition led by the American Museum of Natural History near Ghost Ranch, New Mexico, uncovered dozens of complete Coelophysis skeletons, presumably killed during a flash flooding event. Over the past few decades, further specimens of Coelophysis have been discovered in North America as well as in South Africa and China. Some of these fossils were once referred to as Centauris and Megamopsaurus, but many scientists believe that they all belong to Coelophysis. Coelophysis is thought to be one of the most primitive theropods, which makes this dinosaur an important step in the evolution of dinosaurs. Coelophysis is at the base of the family tree of a great many dinosaurs, including all the Dilophosaurus, Oviraptors, Ornithomimids, and the ever-popular raptor family, which includes the Velociraptor, Utahraptor, and Deinonychus. Weirdly enough, Coelophysis is the second dinosaur that has ever been in space, following Maiasaura. A Coelophysis skull from the Carnegie Museum of Natural History was aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour mission STS-89 when it left the atmosphere on January 22, 1998. The Coelophysis specimen was flown to the space station Mir before being returned to Earth. While you may think the person that came up with this idea was probably on drugs, it was actually a pretty interesting initiative that combined the popularity of space and dinosaurs, two subjects that really draw young kids' attentions and get them more interested in these two fields. While Coelophysis was not featured on the screen in the Jurassic Park movie franchise, behind the scenes, InGen cloned it at some point after the Jurassic Park incident, and it lived on Isla Nublar as well as Isla Sorna. If you like to keep learning more about this dinosaur, then this video will feature a complete paleontological profile of the hollow-form lizard and then attempt to recreate its original environment in the game Jurassic World Evolution 2. Coelophysis was a small, slenderly built, ground-dwelling bipedal carnivore that could grow up to 9.8 feet long and lived approximately 230 to 201 million years ago. It lived during the latter part of the Triassic period in what is now the southwestern United States. This dinosaur is known from a complete number of skeletons, and so its weight ranges from 33 pounds for the slender-built ones, while the more robust individuals weigh in at around 55 pounds. This lean, lightweight hunter was one of the earliest theropod dinosaurs, a group of mainly carnivorous dinosaurs that included all the most powerful land predators of the Mesozoic era. Like all theropods, Coelophysis ran on its hind legs, and the athletic form of its body suggests that it was very agile and could run at high speeds. It stood on 3 strong toes with robust claws that allowed it to grip the dry ground in which it lived, allowing it to make sharp turns while running. A 4th, much shorter toe on the inside of the foot was raised off the ground. Like nearly all dinosaurs that stood on 2 legs, Coelophysis balanced itself with a long tail. However, the tail had an unusual structure within its vertebrae, which formed a semi-rigid structure, apparently to help it stop the tail from moving up and down. Coelophysis also had narrow hips and forelimbs adapted for grasping prey. Each hand had 3 long fingers and very short forethorn. It had forelimbs that were flexible and had a good range of motion, however its bone structure suggested it was rather weak. The weak forelimbs suggested that Coelophysis preyed upon small, fast-moving prey. Coelophysis also had a long mobile neck that gave it the ability to turn its jaws in any direction, helpful in catching elusive, fast-moving prey. This neck supported a long, narrow skull with a slender snout and shallow jaw of a hunter that targeted small animals, and some paleontologists speculated that it could hunt down larger prey if they worked in packs. Coelophysis also had large forward-facing eyes that gave it 3D vision, and as a result, it had excellent depth perception. The discovery of a juvenile Coelophysis sclerotic ring allowed it to be compared to that of modern-day reptiles and birds, and as a result, it was agreed that Coelophysis was a diurnal, visual-oriented predator, meaning that it was mainly active during the daytime. The study also found that the vision of Coelophysis was superior to that of lizards, and ranked with that of modern birds of prey. Its eyes appeared to be the closest to those of eagles and hawks, with a high power of accommodation. The data also suggested poor night vision for Coelophysis, which would probably mean it had a round rather than a split pupil. The teeth of Coelophysis were usual of typical predatory dinosaurs, blade-like, recurved, sharp, and jagged with fine serrations on both sides. The sharp teeth were angled back like barbed hooks, making them ideal for catching smaller prey. It approximately had 26 teeth in its upper jaw and 27 teeth in the lower jaw. The stomach regions of some fossils of Coelophysis skeletons contain the remains of the last meal. One such meal appeared to be the skeleton of a juvenile Coelophysis, and it was originally seen as evidence of cannibalism. However, the bones were later shown to be those of a crocodile-like reptile. Finally, in 2009, the bones of a baby Coelophysis would be discovered inside the stomach of an adult Coelophysis, confirming once and for all that Coelophysis engaged in cannibalistic behavior. Paleontologists know a lot about Coelophysis because hundreds of its skeletons were found together in a bone bed at Ghost Ranch, New Mexico in 1947. It is not clear why so many died at once in this particular place, but it's possible that groups of this dinosaur were attracted to an isolated watering hole during a drought but then drowned in a catastrophic flash flood triggered by a sudden storm. The flood carried mud that buried the bodies, and over millions of years, the mud turned to rock, fossilizing the bones. However, this doesn't prove that pack behavior existed within Coelophysis. This deposit only indicates that a large number of Coelophysis, along with other Triassic animals, were buried together. However, if Coelophysis did live in groups, they may have hunted together to give them an advantage over larger prey, the same way modern-day hyenas and lion packs war together to bring down large animals. However, these modern-day mammals are thought to be much smarter than the Coelophysis would have been, so pack hunting behavior may not have been possible. Not much is known about Coelophysis parental behavior, but so far what is known is that the average egg size of Coelophysis was about 31 to 33 millimeters across its minor diameter, and that each female would lay between 24 to 26 eggs in each clutch. It is also thought that as soon as they hatched, they would have to fend for themselves against predators and the elements. However, others believe that Coelophysis may have hunted in family groups, so the young would be raised closely so that they could learn from their parents. And as juveniles, they grew rapidly, especially during the first years of life. Coelophysis likely reached sexual maturity between the second and third years of its life and reached full size just above 10 feet in length by its 8th year. Studies of Coelophysis specimens also demonstrated that sexual dimorphism was present early in life prior to sexual maturity, and it's been concluded that the more slender skeletons were female. The robust form was male based on differences in the sacral vertebrae of the slender form, which allowed for greater flexibility for egg laying. Further support for this position was provided by an analysis that concluded that each morph comprised 50% of the population, as would be expected in a 50-50 sex ratio. These two morphs of Coelophysis have been named and identified. The more slender form is based on AMNH 7223, and the slightly more robust form is based on specimens AMNH 7224 and MMMNH 042200. Paleontologists have been able to decipher many things about Coelophysis, as it is one of the oldest known dinosaur genera in the world, having been discovered over 130 years ago. While this dinosaur was discovered so long ago, it was the recent discovery of thousands of Coelophysis specimens at Ghost Ranch in 1947 that elevated Coelophysis to being one of the best studied dinosaurs of the Triassic period. An amateur fossil collector working for lead paleontologist Edward Drinker Cope, David Baldwin came across the first remains of Coelophysis in 1881 in the Chinle Formation located in the northwestern corner of New Mexico. However, this first discovery would only uncover a couple of fragmented remains that were too poorly preserved to give a complete picture of this new dinosaur. At first, these discovered specimens were originally named the species of Coelurus, and in 1887, Cope assigned the specimens collected to two new species, Coelurus bauri and Coelurus longicollis. But later in that year, Cope reassigned the material to yet another genus, Tanystropheus. 2 years later, Cope corrected his classification yet again after realizing differences in the vertebrae and named it Coelophysis, with Coelophysis bari as the type species, which was named for George Bauer, a comparative anatomist whose ideas were similar to Cope's. The name Coelophysis means hollow form, and it comes from the Greek word koilos, meaning hollow, and physis, meaning form, and was given this name due to the particular hollow limb bones. This feature would have given Coelophysis a lightly built body, helping it to be a swift, agile hunter. It would not be until 1947 that a substantial graveyard of Coelophysis fossils were found by American paleontologist George Whittaker, the assistant of Edwin H. Colbert, the director of the American Museum of Paleontology at Ghost Ranch, New Mexico. This location is a small secluded retreat and educational center located close to the village of Abiquiu, which houses a population of just over 231 people. After this significant paleontological discovery, the fossil recovery team led by Edwin H. Colbert conducted a comprehensive study of all the fossils found up to that date and assigned them to Coelophysis. Unlike the first remains, the Ghost Ranch specimens were so numerous, including well-preserved and fully articulated specimens, that one of them has since become the holotype, replacing the original poorly preserved specimen. These finds demonstrated that Coelophysis could get fairly large for an early dinosaur, with adults ranging to a size up to 10 feet. These sizes are generally divided into two specimen types, robust and gracile, and are thought to represent gender differentiation. Coelophysis, being one of the first theropods, had some characteristics which were later lost on members of the theropod family. It still had 4 fingers, although the 4th digit was quite small. Japanese paleontologist Kenneth Carpenter also identified 3 distinct models of theropod forelimb use, and noted that Coelophysis was a combination grasper-clutcher, as compared to other dinosaurs that were clutchers or long-armed graspers. Its long tail was curiously constructed with an interlocking structure of the vertebrae, allowing the tail to move only from side to side and preventing vertical movement that may have helped Coelophysis move at great speeds while using its tail as a sort of rudder. It had also been suggested that Coelophysis was a cannibal, based on supposed juvenile specimens found within the abdominal cavities of some Ghost Ranch specimens. However, American paleontologist Robert J. Gay showed in 2002 that these specimens were misinterpreted. Several of these supposed juvenile Coelophysis were actually small crudotarsan reptiles like Herperosuchus. However, in 2009, new evidence of cannibalism came to light when additional preparation of previously excavated remains revealed regurgitated material in and around the mouth of Coelophysis specimen NMMNHP44551. This material included tooth and jawbone fragments that Professor Robert Reinhardt and other paleontologists considered morphologically identical to a juvenile Coelophysis. A couple of years before, in 2004, dinosaur species Centauris was found to be synonymous with Coelophysis by the paleontological team Rowan Tunkowski and Tim Rowe. In 2007, other paleontologists like Martin Escurra and Fernando Novas agreed with Tunkowski and Rowe's assessment and reassigned Centauris as Coelophysis. This phenomenon happened once again with a later dinosaur named Meganopsaurus that was later found to be a late surviving Coelophysis. Support for this came from striking similarity between the two dinosaurs, but more evidence is needed to confirm this. So if these two species formerly classified as Centauris and Meganopsaurus are indeed Coelophysis, then paleontologists would be able to confirm that it existed in the Jurassic period as well, although it seems that it was by far more common in the Triassic. Further research and Coelophysis fossil discoveries will be needed in order for paleontologists to further understand this small, agile predator and the exact time period in which it lived. Specimens of Coelophysis have been recovered from the Chinle Formation of New Mexico and Arizona, more famously at the Ghost Ranch quarry in the Rock Point Member. The sediments, which have been dated to approximately 212 million years ago, make them part of the late Triassic, with paleontologist Thomas Holt approximating the specimens to being around 204 to 201 million years old. During the Triassic period, the main plants consisted of conifers, ginkgos, cycads, ferns, mosses, and horsetails. There were no flowering plants at all, and many types of plants took a long time to recover from the extinction at the start of the period, especially forest trees. The Triassic period was very different from our own time. At first, all life was recovering from the disaster that caused the mass extinction at the end of the previous era. The climate was profoundly affected by the way all the land formed one giant continent, and a lot of the plant life that we take for granted today did not exist. Ghost Ranch was located close to the equator at the time and had a warm monsoon-like climate with heavy seasonal precipitation. Hayden Quarry, a new excavation site at Ghost Ranch, New Mexico, has yielded a diverse collection of fossil material, including the first evidence of dinosaurs and less advanced dinosauromorphs from the same time period. The discovery indicates that these two groups coexisted during the early Triassic period about 235 million years ago. In 2001, paleontologists Francois Therian and David Fatowski examined the paleoenvironment of Coelophysis and other early theropods from Petrified Forest National Park in Arizona and determined that this dinosaur lived in an environment that consisted of floodplains marked by distinct dry and wet seasons. There was a great deal of competition during drier times when animals struggled for water in riverbeds that were drying up. During the Triassic period, water was scarce due to the elevated hot and dry temperatures, meaning that the Ghost Ranch find was probably a large herd of Coelophysis that had grouped at a drying watering hole in an attempt to obtain water. This large group was most likely probably exposed to a flash flood, which would have buried them, killed them, and fossilized them for future paleontologists to discover. There have also been some unconfirmed remains of Coelophysis that suggest that they lived in the Upper Elliott Formation in the Cape and Free State provinces of South Africa, as well as the Chitake River bone bed quarry at the Forest Sandstone Formation in Zimbabwe. The mass extinction that ended the period before the Triassic was the most deadly in Earth's history. Most of the animal species living at the time were wiped out, but a few survived. During the early Triassic, new types of animals began evolving from these survivors, but it took more than 10 million years for animal life to become as diverse as it had before the catastrophe. In this late Triassic period though, dinosaurs were not at the top of the food chain. Instead, early reptiles called phytosaurs and rausokids dominated the landscape. In the upper sections of the Chinle Formation where Coelophysis was found, dinosaurs were so rare that so far only the 7-foot Chindesaurus and the 5-foot-long Daemanosaurus have been discovered, the terrestrial fauna being dominated instead by other reptiles like the Rhynchocephalian Whitakosaurus, a lizard-looking animal, the Cerusuchin Revoltosaurus, and the Aedosaurus Desmarusochus. Others included the earliest vertebrate known as Typothorax, the heavily armored Heliocanthus, the crocodilomorph Hesperorhizocus, the Rauchicians Chivosaurus, Iphigia, and Viveron, along with other rare animals like the Dinosauromorph Eucolyphus and the amniote Craterochyodon. In the waterways, there is the Phytosaur Machairoprosupus, the Acrosauromorph Vancleva, with amphibious like Apachosaurus and Cosconodon. Coelophysis had to evade carnivores such as the crocodile-like Phytosaurs and the fearsome Rauchicians like Pastosuchus. Early meat-eating dinosaurs like Coelophysis relied on their speed and agility to evade these predators, as well as to hunt a variety of animals like insects and small reptiles. While Coelophysis did not feature in the Jurassic Park movies, it did appear behind the scenes. At some point between 2005 and 2015, Coelophysis was cloned by InGen operating under the banner of the Maserati Global Corporation. Coelophysis was recreated during ancient DNA recovered from Jurassic amber samples and was intended for exhibition in the Jurassic World theme park, but there is currently no evidence that it was put on display. They were likely housed in Habitat Sector 5 in the northern region of the island, though their population statistics for this time are unknown. After the 2015 incident closed Jurassic World permanently, Coelophysis and the other dinosaurs were able to roam the island and were left at the mercy of nature and each other. It is strongly suspected to have become extinct around this time due to competition for resources. No surviving populations have been confirmed, but a report by the Dinosaur Protection Group released in 2018 heavily implied that Coelophysis became extinct at some point before that date. While no living specimens have been reported since before 2018, the DNA of this species presumably still exists in InGen's genetic database. Many samples of DNA entered the black market in 2018 after the extinction became open source. If Coelophysis had been bred, or if its genetic material is in circulation, it may possibly be found in the amber clave night market in Malta, which became a hub of de-extinction resource trade in the 2020s. Coelophysis is also reported to be living in the northern region of Isla Sorna, being found more commonly around sandy beaches and in some forest. However, during dry seasons, they travel inland to open areas to scavenge. They are also wary of and often aggressive to humans, including observers who get too close for their comfort, especially when their young are with them. In captivity, Coelophysis have been seen living in groups ranging from 10 to 20 to almost 60 individuals or more. However, unlike raptors, there's not always an established hierarchy within these groups. Simply put, most large groups consist entirely of random males and females looking around for food. But on the other hand, solitary individuals are not uncommon. In group feedings, conflict can break out as each member aims to eat the best parts of a carcass. Indian Coelophysis in particular is very aggressive and often hunts in packs. While far from the strongest dinosaur, a pack of Coelophysis could take down fairly large prey. Their hunting strategies and techniques are similar to that of Compys, only more aggressive. It was also one of the last dinosaurs Indian cloned before the incident at Isla Nublar. They are basically Compys that are bigger, faster, and pose a significantly larger threat, especially in packs. Coelophysis also has had rather small cameos in the Jurassic Park video game franchise. In the bad ending for the Sega game version of the Lost World Jurassic Park, Coelophysis is mentioned in the end credits as one of the programmers of the game. It also makes an appearance in the Game Boy Advance game Jurassic Park 3 Park Builder. A Coelophysis replica display can also be seen on the top floor of the Innovation Center of the level Main Street Showdown of LEGO Jurassic World. While Coelophysis did not appear in the first Jurassic World Evolution game, it did appear in the second establishment of the game Jurassic World Evolution 2 as a dinosaur that one can finally house in their park. In popular culture, Coelophysis is one of the best known dinosaurs in literature as it was one of the first dinosaurs discovered. It was designated as the official state fossil of New Mexico in 1981 and is now the logo of the New Mexico Museum of Natural History. And Coelophysis was also the second dinosaur in space. The claim to fame for being the first goes to Mysara, which happened in 1985. Nevertheless, a Coelophysis skull was taken into space in January 1998 when the Space Shuttle Endeavour carried the specimen from the Carnegie Museum of Natural History to the Mir space station before being returned to Earth. It would later go on to appear in the documentary When Dinosaurs Roamed America, where it once again appeared as the first theropod introduced in the program. Coelophysis also appeared in the BBC documentary Walking World Dinosaurs. They showed the Coelophysis hunting Placerias, an ancient reptile not related to dinosaurs. They also show how the speed and agility of the Coelophysis helped it survive and dominate. So welcome to my park. As you can see here, it's still a work in progress. Still got a good 2/3 of the map still open for building. But for today, we're going to focus on our Coelophysis enclosure. And I'm thinking of doing something similar to what the paleontologists found on those thousands of remains, where they were, presumably near a lake that was more or less drying up, and this was one of the few sources of water left until they congregated here, and eventually, apparently, a flash flood came in and ended up wiping them out. So we're gonna try to recreate that. I'm gonna do a small little. I'm gonna lower the terrain just a bit. Actually, let's make this a little bit bigger, like that. Lower it just a bit. And I'm gonna go smooth it out. Now what we're gonna do is build us a body of water. Perfect. The reason why I want it to look like this is because we're gonna give it the illusion that all of this was once water and it's been slowly drying up. So this is all that's left. After that, since it was a semi-arid environment, we can keep most of the grass. I do want to switch it up from the moss. That seems like it is here. But let's go ahead and just add just a little bit of sand. Kind of blend in You know, this part right here, of course, there's sand in the water, so we'll do that. Just a little bit here and there, not too much. And the rest is up to you, really. You can add a little bit of rock, which we already have here, but for the most part, you know, just to help blend it in, you can always, you know, Bob Ross, as I like to call it, you know, so it doesn't give it a nice natural look. Aside from that, you can put a little bit of dirt as well, you know. But, you know, the only thing else you need to focus on, I guess, is a little bit of grass, like I said, replace. Actually, no, that doesn't really do much. So just keep it like that. Okay, it's this grass you don't want to watch out for. Don't use this one. I just don't like it. Or you can use it. Up to you. Personal preference. But I like this one. After that, let's focus on the rocks. Let's just build a few. 1, 2, and 3. And another one over here. With 2 other ones over here. And I think that should be good. Maybe add 2 small ones over here. You know, and it's up to you, personal preference on how you want to work this. After that, we can go ahead and focus on our nature, our environment, our foliage. Mostly our foliage, really. So let's go ahead and do some seed plants. Not too many, but just enough to cover this part right here. And then after that, let's move over to our cycads. I do want to put my cycads over here. After that, let's go ahead and just put a bit of ginkgos over here. And if you like, I think I'm just going to finish with some calamites. You can always use the forest as well, but I think the ginkgos is a good good replacement for that. So once that's done, I think that's pretty much it, really. Unless you want to go ahead and add, you know, a couple more things like the ground cover, but you know, I think we pretty much got that on lockdown with the rest of the foliage. What you can do here actually is we can actually add some, not decor, but these guys right here. So let's build some tall trees. So 1, and this will give be part of the conifers. So there you have it. Let me know what you guys think. And I'll show you guys a small little snippet with the Coelophysis running around here, okay? Coelophysis was one of the earliest theropods to have appeared on Earth over 200 million years ago. With a lightweight and slim frame, this dinosaur would use its speed and agility to take down its prey. So it is no doubt that Coelophysis is a beautiful but deadly addition to your Jurassic Park. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.